Now, join us on the program right now, Dr. Robert Young with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Dr. Young, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Cam. How are you all today?
We are great. I appreciate you coming on the program. I thought of you when I read this story. A quarter of adults in the United States have hearing loss because of noise. This, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And you know, Dr. Young, we've got this bill in Congress right now called the Hearing Protection Act that might, I think, would actually help a certain number of these adults in the U.S. From suffering additional hearing loss.
Of course it would. Anyone who shoots, which, as we know, is a very large proportion of our population.
Absolutely. So what are we talking about here in terms of first of all, the problem that we have with hearing? How bad is it for most Americans? And for shooters in particular, what are the benefits that we're talking about here when it comes to like the Hearing Protection Act?
Sure. Well, first of all, of course, as we age, I'm 61. I'm sure this hasn't affected any of you there yet, but as we age, we do naturally lose our capacity to hear high-pitched sounds. But as we shoot, we lose it a lot faster, and I am an example. This can happen from listening to too many amplified rock concerts, which I think all of us in these generations share, beginning with mine. But it also happens from shooting without hearing protection, and certainly as I grew up, no one had even thought about that. So I was, during my young male and adolescent years, I was shooting without any help right up to my 12-gauge shotgun, which is guaranteed with each shot to destroy cells in the ear that allow you to hear well. I finally got on the program a few years ago myself, and always wear hearing protection, but there are problems with that because then you can't hear anybody talking to you. Mm-hmm. Suppressors, we should call them that instead of silencers. There's no way you can silence the sound of a gunshot. Became very, very hard and unaffordable with the 1934 National Firearms Act. And it's a fascinating history because I've seen several people recently have unearthed copies of the original testimony for that bill. No one mentions anything about the need to prohibit silencers, suppressors then. And yet they got stuck into that bill. And at the time, even then cost $200 to get licensed through the federal government, mm-hmm. which was incredibly prohibitive then. It's still way too much now.
Yeah.
So now that we have an administration that may be sympathetic to the health benefits of shooting, which are wide-ranging, we are very hopeful of seeing the bill go through to protect people's hearing from optional things like the sound of gunshots. Do you have that visual?
Yes, we do have a graphic that you sent over. Let's take a look at this, comparing noise levels of firearms and the decibel levels of these firearms. So, as you can see, none of them go down to 0 decibels, right? But a 223 unsuppressed, you're looking at 165 decibels. Now, that is 25 decibels more than the safe hearing level, right?
That's right. And there's some interesting comparisons with some things that everyone knows about. The sound of a jet taking off. Nobody wants to stand on the runway without hearing protection with a jet taking off. That's 150. Jackhammers, 130. Anyone ever walked down the street and stood 3 feet away from a jackhammer? The operators wear hearing protection. Mm-hmm. So would we. Now, I notice here they have silenced 9mm pistol, silenced .22 rifle, which are below the level at which you're guaranteed immediate hearing damage. However, if they're unsilenced, the 30 to 40 decibels of suppression that are included in those numbers pop them right up over the safe level at which you guaranteed a degree of loss every single time you hear that. So there is no firearm that can be considered safe for hearing heard without any suppression or protection. That is an important cause of hearing loss in our country today, and as shooting becomes more popular, becomes all the more important to remove the totally reasonless, effective prohibition on these devices in order to help protect people and in order for them to be able to function at a range or hunting with people. Because with a proper silencer suppressor on the firearm, you have a choice. You can add hearing protection so you hear nothing, which of course protects you the best, or you can add some minimal hearing protection, or in some cases none, and you can actually talk to people next to you. And that's a lot safer, too, than waving around the barrel of your AR trying to get somebody's attention.
Yes, it is. Well, listen, Dr. Young, unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but I appreciate you coming on the program talking about this. I thought the graphic in particular very helpful so folks can see, again, the range of decibels that we're talking about here, because a big part of this, and again, I would encourage anybody who's interested in this issue to try to shoot a suppressed firearm yourself. At least go online. You can look at folks like Chris Chang shooting suppressed shotguns. No shortage of suppressor videos out there for you to take a look at and hear for yourself. What it is that we're actually talking about. Don't go watch a James Bond movie and think that what suppressors or silencers are really all about. You gotta get beyond the fiction and start delving into the realm of the facts here. And
I'm sure you've talked about this many times, but I just talked about the advantages. These supposed fantastical disadvantages that the anti-gunners are pointing out, of course, are just silliness, and I trust that that's being addressed too. We can talk about it some other time if you want.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Young. I appreciate it very much. Dr. Robert Young joins us with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. You can find them on Twitter at DRGOSAF, also DRGO.US online.